Well, it's no surprise that it seems like celebrities are always running into tax troubles.
Yeah, earlier we told you about 2 celebs facing financial woes. So why can't these stars pay their bills? We're here to tell us about these celebs and how they mismanage their millions is president of Optimum Capital Management, Ryan Mack. Ryan, what is going on?
Well, this is what happens. You know, we do a lot of work with different artists, beginning and those who are famous, but when you start, you're singing every morning, you're working on your craft, and most of them are broke, you know, and every single day they just work, they work. They're artists, they're struggling artists, they might have a little job on the side waiting, but all of a sudden, as they're working on their craft every day, something hits. They get that part in the play. They get that song that just breaks wide and everybody wants to sign them to a label. And they don't, and as they're so focused on their craft and they start getting additional income, they're filing their W-2s, getting 1099s, they forget to file their taxes. They forget about to talk about the money part because they're so focused on their craft. And then their income fluctuates so much. Every single week, every single month, they're getting these checks and they're just not used to figuring out what do I need to do to file these taxes as a part of it. And they don't have good consultation. They have the great managers, they have great PR and AR folks to get in good deals, but someone to actually sit down and actually teach them about money is not so great.
But April 15th rolls around and you haven't heard from your accountant. You know something's up, right?
And this is the thing, you think about it. If you've been, let's say you're a waitress, you know, and then you get paid, the restaurant probably takes taxes out of your check.
Okay.
Right, so then you might file at the end of that year. But if you are an artist and you're doing tours regularly and you're getting $100,000 checks for doing this concert or $50,000 for that concert, they might pay you in cash and they might not take any taxes out of that. So they don't necessarily know, like, I'm supposed to do anything with this money. Or they get this $25,000 for this show, and next thing you know, they might go to the club, or they might go on a shopping spree, or they might do something. I saw a segment earlier that you talked about doing Botox and all these type of plastic surgery type things. And that entire money, that $100,000, which is actually about 65 to 70 after taxes, was given to you completely, but you blew the whole thing, so you didn't necessarily know. So when we work with artists, we try to tell them, file taxes quarterly. At least 4 times a year, you should be filing your taxes. So you're keeping up on all of your receipts, everything that's going on. Maybe form an LLC and have them pay your company to keep on top of it so your company gets paid as opposed to you personally.
Well, you bring up a good point about the cash. Now, if someone is given cash, they think, oh, it's tax-free, I don't have to pay it. But if the person who gave it to you files and says, I gave it to this person, that's where the trouble comes into play, right?
When you file that W-2, you put your Social Security number on that W-2 for a reason. That company is saying, listen, we're paying you this money, and we're documenting that we paid you this money. So at the end of the year, when the IRS pulls up that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Social Security number, and you haven't filed your taxes because you're just not thinking about it. You might have went to the club and done this and that, but the IRS is saying, well, no, this Social Security number has documented this amount of monies that somebody has to account for because now the business, they're keeping their books together. They're sound, but they paid you and they didn't take any taxes out. That's your responsibility, your obligation to make sure you keep it. And that's why and again, we don't get arrested for not paying taxes normally. You get arrested for not filing taxes. And that's where the problem comes into place.
So you can, as long as you file, then you should be fine. It's when you don't file where the real trouble starts to happen.
There are instances, a few instances where individuals are just belligerent and just saying, I'm just not going to pay you. I'm not trying to go work out a payment plan that you might be able to get some sort of a penalty or fine. Usually some late fees for not paying. But filing, again, like Wesley Snipes, he didn't file. He was very belligerent with not filing. He said, I'm not going to file. You know, and there's this movement out there, this undercover movement of individuals trying to say, well, I'm not supposed to file taxes and I shouldn't have to pay taxes if I say this or that. That's just wrong. So he said that in court. Essentially, he went to prison for it.
Wow.
Because he was just being belligerent.
Very belligerent.
So they said, okay, you're not going to pay, then you'll serve the time.
Exactly.
So now that he's out, does he still have to pay it, or is it erased?
Well, there are back taxes that he still has to pay. So all these things, usually the IRS does not go after 6 years.
Okay.
You know? But again, if you're belligerent about it, they have the right to go over what they want to do. So it's not really a lot of, I mean, if somebody like Wesley Snipes is saying, I just don't want to pay any taxes, I'm not going to pay you, come get me if you want to. You're going to go to prison, but they're also going to try to come after your pocketbook as well.
Now, do they go after these big-name celebrities because they want to make examples of them?
Well, it's a lot of money.
Okay.
I mean, these guys are making tons of capital.
Right.
You know, usually individuals that are not making that much money, if you're not, even if you don't file, I mean, we've worked with individuals who are living in public housing and whatnot, they might forget to file for 4 or 5, sometimes we've seen instances in 7, 8 years that individuals have not filed taxes. And, you know, these individuals are not making that much money, not making that much capital. So, I mean, again, conceivably, IRS might come after them, but again, because their income is so low, they sneak under the wayside. But for individuals making millions of dollars, they're going to come after them to say, you need to file and pay something.
Okay, well, another example is Nicolas Cage. In 2009, he filed a lawsuit for $20 million against his business manager, alleging that he's the one who had neglect and fraud, and that's the reason why his taxes, his money was messed up. So is that a legitimate excuse for these celebrities to blame someone else and say, it wasn't me?
That's a contractual issue. It really all depends on how the contract and the business deal was set up, okay? So if you have a business deal and there's a contract, I mean, ideally, I haven't read the contract and what it states, but ideally, if that individual said that you must state this and these are part of your business duties, and if you do neglect part of these business duties, then you might be fiscally responsible, financially responsible for any losses thereof. Now, that's a pretty rigid contract, and I don't think that any savvy business manager would ever enter that contract. But more than likely, what I would see this is that Nicolas Cage is probably neglectful in terms of monitoring his own capital, and many business managers, in terms of the contract, use a little bit broader. And again, it's really how the contract is written out. But that contract probably didn't state that they must have that much impact or influence into his specific finances. So Nicolas Cage.
Can a celebrity say, look, I gave my money to this accountant, this money manager, they messed up, it wasn't me? Is that a legitimate argument when you're in court?
There are institutions that actually individuals will pay for different civil litigations that say that if you do not manage my money right, but again, as an investment advisor, I have a likelihood that I can get sued if I don't manage individuals' money right, if I don't make investment decisions based upon what that. But again, it's become a little bit more strict since Bernie Madoff and all those things have come out, so it's a little bit more scrutiny. But again, there still is a certain obligation that is, as long as I can prove that as an investment advisor, I made the best decisions based upon what your likelihood is, what your goals are, what your wishes are, what your financial situation is, and that could be a very broad, not easy, not hard for me to prove at all, then I'm kind of protected by that. You know, as long as I didn't, if you're making, you know, $200, if you're making $200,000 a year, and I'm sitting here saying, you know, I think you should invest in this $3 million piece of property and go totally at risk, then I might be subject to a lawsuit to saying I did not make suitable investment practices. But if it's something that's reasonable within reason, it's something such as simple as I forgot to check out this individual's investments, or I didn't reallocate their portfolio regularly, that might not necessarily be suable.
Now, Stephen Baldwin is also blaming his money man. Apparently, he owes $300,000 in back taxes, and he'll be sentenced to 5 years probation if he doesn't pay up by the end of this year. So again, you have a situation where these people think that they're doing the right thing by hiring money managers, and it turns out that they're not necessarily doing the right thing. So how do you, as a celebrity, ensure that you've got the right person on your money team?
Well, I mean, just like a celebrity is what I tell everyone who's a celebrity, who's a non-celebrity. First of all, you want to get references. You want to make sure that they have a CPA for those accountants. You should probably get a CFP, Certified Public Accountant, for those accountants. CFP, Certified Financial Planner, for those who are financial advisors. You want to make sure that you get references. You want to make sure that you talk to them. You're regularly talking. File taxes. Those entertainers out there, file your taxes 4 times a year.
4 times?
3 times every quarter.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. That way, it's a lot less work to do once you get in
and
there.
It keeps it fresh on your mind. Use things like QuickBooks, so you can take QuickBooks and Simple. They have different things that are online. Mint.com is essentially a great site to help you keep budgeting things together. These are things that, again, it keeps it fresh on your mind. Keep all your receipts together. Know that when you get paid, take about half of that capital, put it in the bank, and act like you don't even have it. And then if you get paid $100,000 for a show, you don't even have 50 of it, and take that other 50 and live off of that, and then you probably got to pay taxes with the rest, and the rest that you don't have to pay taxes with, you keep that as savings and stack on top of that.
Okay, one more person to ask you about Dionne Warwick. She has $10 million in tax debt dating back all the way to 1991. How is she not in jail?
Well, she's just broke.
Oh, so if you're broke, it's okay?
Well, that's the thing. So if you're broke, then the IRS looks at each case individually. I mean, again, Wesley Snipes is saying, I'm just not going to pay you. You can go.
But he's also broke, too.
Yeah, he's broke. But Dionne Warwick has not been managing the money right. She's broke, and they're probably looking at her like, well, this is what you owe. Let's see if we can work on a payment plan, whatever we can do. She's probably going to file for bankruptcy if she hadn't done already.
All right, so your advice, file quarterly.
File quarterly.
And take half of your money and just put it aside.
Take half of it, put it aside, and make sure you get a good accountant that's willing to talk to you, who's a CPA or an enrolled agent or a tax attorney. Those are the only 3 individuals that can represent you in court if you ever sue.
Or they should call you.
Well, I don't do taxes.
Call you.
I don't do taxes.
You don't do
consultant.
I do investments. So, I do know a lot. I mean, my accountant Edwin Davis is a great guy as well.
Oh, look at you plugging your accountant. Look at you.
Discount. Oh, well, Ryan,
thank you so much,
as
Ryan
always.
Mack. Yeah, good information. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That's right. You know where to keep it. Arise Entertainment 360.